I'm Russ Kickle, and on today's episode of American Reef, we're going to get an update on Mike Paletta's 500-gallon reef. It's been about a year since we've seen the Paletta 500-gallon reef tank. And like everything else in this reef-keeping hobby, year's a long time. And during that year, you're going to have some highs and lows. And in this case, Mike has had both. In today's video, Mike's going to actually review some of those lows, like, for example, how he got dinoflagellates, how he got rid of them, that sort of thing, right? And he's also going to review some of those highs, like the new hardware that he added to the system. Speaking of which, the other thing we're going to see in today's video is how Mike is changing the circulation in that 500-gallon tank. Long story made short, he's going from like 13-ish power head streamers, whatever you want to call them, right, down to 2. So again, that thought process will be interesting to watch and to listen to. And like everything else, if you are, again, revamping your circulation in your reef tank, give my sponsors a look, right? The good, honest guys deserve a chance to earn your business, right? Who are they? It's Bulk Reef Supply, Premium Aquatics, Ecosystems, Tunzi, right? All good, honest guys that deserve a chance to earn your business. And on that note, let's hear what Mike has to say about that 500-gallon reef tank of his.
Hey, Michael.
Hello, Russell. Welcome back.
Woo! Yeah, we haven't been down here in a long time.
No, we've been down here at least a year or so.
Yeah.
Tank went through some problems over the summer. High pollen, in my belief, led to a dinoflagellate bloom, which wiped out a significant portion of these corals, and even worse, a lot of the frags that I grow to put in here when bad things happen in this tank. So I find out that dinos are much more specific to smaller colonies or non-healthy colonies. I had a salinity issue. The water was hyper saline because I was using the HANA salinity test, and it wasn't very accurate.
You didn't calibrate it every time.
I didn't calibrate it every time. I was calibrating it, and I thought it was working, but the salinity got up to 39. That stressed the corals, and that allowed the dinoflagellates to attack the stressed corals. What else did because I was using a new system of dosing, I had 0 sulfates, literally almost 0 sulfates, which I found out Gonioporas do not like 0 sulfates, mushroom corals do not like 0 sulfates, and a lot of the chalices and some of the SPSs did not like 0 sulfates. So I had to add Epsom salts, magnesium sulfate, to bring the sulfates up, but I went through a 4-pound bag of Epsom salts to get them good. So I went through that. So I have now gone to a bi-weekly, every 2 weeks I do an ICP test with fauna marin. I've got everything stabilized. The corals are starting to take off and grow again. The Paletta pink tip is finally starting to show pink again, or purple in this case, because under LEDs they've gone to purple.
Right.
The other corals are starting to encrust, so the tank is finally stabilized in my mind.
So it means it's time to change.
Well, there were also some other changes. I got rid of the 2 smaller skimmers and went with a big Bubble King skimmer. And I went from a redox potential of 325 to a redox potential of 450 simply by changing the skimmer. I'm taking out a lot more dissolved organics. This water was yellow when you put it in a white bucket. It was yellowish. It's whitish now. It's clear. Also switched over to Fauna Marin's Balling Light method. I was using soda ash, which is sodium carbonate. I'm now using sodium bicarbonate. It doesn't precipitate out. I constantly had fine detritus and other problems in this tank doing that, and we couldn't figure out why. Since I've switched to that 6 months ago, I no longer have the detritus issue that I was having. So there are lots of changes. It's an older tank. It's 5 years now. And at 5 years, I know, hard to believe. Wow. At 5 years, you start to have issues typically with things, and that's what happened. So now it's stabilized. I'm rejuvenating. And what we're talking about rejuvenation today is I'm rejuvenating the flow in this tank. Currently, I have 13, yes, count them, 13 means for moving water within the tank. I have 6 MP60s, I have 5 gyres, I have a Tunze stream, and I have another Tunze on the tank. There's still not enough flow in my mind. After visiting Andrew's tanks a number of times, I fell in love with the Abyss pumps. So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to take all of these power heads off. We're going to put another Abyss pump. This one has been in here roughly 6 weeks. We're going to put another Abyss pump in straight across from it. They're both going to be on random 60 to 65% down to 15 to 20%. The water is going to be flowing back and forth, moving a ton of water throughout the tank. I'm going to use 2 of the MP60s on the bottom back corners to blow the detritus hopefully over to here so that I can easily get it out. So there still will be a lot of water moving along the bottom to move the detritus away from there, but these will crank the amount of flow, because when you see what this puts out, right now it's running at 60%, it basically moves water to here.
Yeah, effortlessly.
Yeah.
Right.
So if I needed to crank it up, which I anticipate over time I probably will have to crank it up, I can crank it up more, plus having another one in, we'll be blowing all the detritus off of the rocks. Right now there's no algae issues, knock on wood, there's no dinoflagellates, and in order to kill the dinoflagellates, I had to increase the silicates in the tank to grow diatoms, because the diatoms outcompeted the species, I can't remember the species name, but to compete with the species, that was one of the suggestions. Between that, blasting it when I saw it with peroxide, and doing lights out periods every 2 or 3 weeks for 3 days, finally got it killed, have this taken off, and now the corals are starting to take off and grow, show their coloration, so I'm quite happy that I've gotten things back to here.
Now, how long did it take you to get rid of the dinoflagellates?
6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, it's not again,
it wasn't an overnight boom gone. Also, we did a lot of remodeling in the house, and there was a lot of paint fumes and fumes from other adhesives and other things. I don't have a keen sense of smell, but my wife could smell all of them, and the tanks could also smell all of them. The soft coral tank upstairs, all the xenia died as a result of the painting. Some of the corals down here did not tolerate it very well. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're having painting, you got to have the windows open and fans on. We did it during this hot, dry summer. We couldn't really open up because it was 90, 94 a lot of the time when they were painting. So obviously that also had a deleterious effect on the tanks.
Did you have any effects on the planted tank?
No.
No. So again,
saltwater tanks seem to be much more susceptible to chemicals, particularly chemicals in the air.
Yeah.
Freshwater tank, no problem.
And now, originally you said like you thought pollen, right, was one of the reasons.
Everything started in the spring when the pollen counts were excessively high, and I've had a couple minor outbreaks after killing off the dinos when the pollen counts got high again. When it was so dry and then all of a sudden we got rain, the pollen counts went way up. That's when I had little outbursts of dinos again. I did a lights out and I blasted them with hydrogen peroxide. They didn't get established this time, so it's been good in that regard.
Got it. Now, when you say you blast them with hydrogen peroxide,
I take Mr. Trusty Ball Baster, I take 4% hydrogen peroxide, suck it up, shoot it in. I don't do more than 100 milliliters, 150 milliliters at a time on a 500-gallon tank, but I'll hit that spot and I'll keep my eye out on that spot, and if there's even a remnant of it, I'll hit it again with a peroxide. That seemed to keep it from growing.
Got it.
I had one big patch come back. I blasted it, and then I turned the lights off on that spot for 3 days. I kept the lights on the rest of the tank. That seemed to take care of it.
I never even thought about that, doing, again, partial lights out, not the whole tank. The
difference is 450 par versus 100 par. Plus it was just blue lights, and the dinos don't do as well seemingly under blue light. I mean, I may be wrong, but in this case, that's what I saw.
Sure. Okay, so now getting back to what you originally wanted to do, you wanted to rejuvenate the flow. What makes you think that you need to rejuvenate the fluid?
Well, it's a number of factors. One, I want to have more sort of waves going back and forth, and by having these, because you can also, this is really easy to set. These are going to change randomly every 4 minutes, from going up to 70% or 60% and down to 20%, and it's random on both ways, so it's going to be random, more of a random flow. Also, by running 13 of these, I'm using approximately $200 a month in electricity by what my estimates. I will save about $70 a month in taking these off. Plus, when people are generally come over to visit, I have to move these up. Then when they come back, I move them down to try and get the better flow. I'm not going to have to do that anymore. Plus, the gyres need cleaned every 2 months. These I'm going to take off once a month, soak them in citric acid, put them back in. That should be relatively easy compared with taking off all the gyres, doing everything.
Right.
It's much more of a pain.
So then you literally are going to take everything you got in there now and reduce it to 4. 2 for real circulation on top.
Right.
And then 2 just to push everything on the bottom in a corner so you can
Yeah,
get it
particularly the bottom back and bottom front.
Yeah.
Because I have a piece of plexiglass over here, and there's a piece of rock that sits on top of it. I just lift off the rock and I can siphon out a cup and a half of dirt once a week.
Okay.
And that's helping me keep my phosphate levels low, or lower than they
Sure.
would be if I just let that sit and rot.
Sure.
It also was a source of cyano. By taking that out once a week, because I don't need to take out a 50-gallon water change. I am doing 50-gallon water changes every 2 weeks. And whenever I was having issues with the dinos, after the dinos were done, I was doing it every week to get everything stabilized. Now I'm back to doing it every 2 weeks.
A lot of water. Although, I guess to that point, what does on Sandler's tank? Does he do water changes?
He does, I believe, 2,500 to 4,000 gallon water changes.
How often is that?
Once a week, once every 2 weeks.
Okay. Yeah, it just occurred to me because I thought, man, Mike, that's a
No,
lot
in
of
his
water.
tanks you have to, considering the biomass and the number of fish.
Yeah, you got a million of them.
Yeah, I mean, he has incredible flow, but it all washes down into different filters. He basically backwashes the filters and cleans them all out during the water change.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. A lot of water either way. So
A lot of water, a lot of work.
So to that point, you're going to change that flow out. We going to do anything else today?
That's enough for today. Taking off 11 pumps and power heads is not going to be the easiest thing we've ever done.
Okay, well, to that point, let's get cracking.
Let's get started. First thing we're going to do is start unplugging things.
And now, do you have many of them in the back that are going to be a pain in the butt to get?
There's one in the back there, and there's one in the back over here. And they'll be somewhat of a pain.
Yeah, how do you get back there?
That was a neat trick, but it's a gyre, so it's just on a magnet. So all I have to do is pull it out, and the magnet will drop to the floor.
Got it. Got it.
All of a sudden, sort of sucking air in.
Right?
Yeah, that's different.
You know what? That'll be interesting. Meaning, since you're getting rid of this flow, the randomization is not there, so it'll get that cyclone of air.
Yeah.
That would screw up.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. We're going to move this down a little. Oh, there we go. The cyclone of air is gone. Well, it was. Well, I can put something above that. But as you can see how far it's blowing across the tank.
Yeah, not a problem.
Okay, so now the fun begins.
So you're thinking you're going to save $70 a month
Yep.
in electricity on it. And ultimately you'll save the hassle of doing what you're doing right now.
Yeah,
Having
because
to
these also have to get cleaned. on a regular
sure.
basis.
Heck yeah. And now, how long have you had those 60s? They've been on there for a while.
They've been on there for 2 and 3. These have been on for a year.
Okay.
All the other ones have been on since literally the beginning.
Yeah, I remember some of the tunsies were in the beginning.
We had more
And
tunsies, and then we've taken the tunsies offline.
Right. And then we got the gyre. And then you're saying that by adding that Bubble King, right, you've noticed a big difference
I've raised the
there.
redox 100 points without doing anything else.
So now, why is redox important?
Redox is potentially a measure of what your dissolved organics are. So by having a better skimmer, I'm taking out more dissolved organics, which if you look at that skimmer,
I know.
that's in 5 days. The amount of nastiness
Yeah.
it's taken out in 5 days compared with what those other two skimmers, it's probably 3 times as much.
Right.
And it's much darker,
Yeah.
and for lack of a better term, richer. Or
Yeah.
robust is probably the better term.
It's funny because I didn't realize Bubble King was still in business.
Yep.
So while you're doing that, you had mentioned some of the articles that you were writing. One of them was on the whole ammonia dosing and all that.
Oh yeah, that's one of the other changes that we've made in the tank. Is this tank is now getting dosed roughly 60 milliliters a day of a stock solution of ammonium bicarbonate, where we mix up 20 grams in a liter of water, and from that stock solution add 60 milliliters a day. Not a ton, but enough to measure ammonia for 15 to 20 minutes after it's dosed, and it's dosed on right now 5 12 milliliter dosages a day.
And you said you've seen a difference there?
I have, since things have stabilized, I've seen a difference. I've seen an increase in alkalinity and calcium consumption, but where I've really seen a difference is in Sanjay's tank.
Yeah.
He really doesn't make a whole lot of changes like I do, which we all know is a problem for me. And seeing his tank over the last 18 months, where 18 months ago it was like, and then 6 months after that, after he started dosing ammonia, it was coming around, and then 6 months after that, it is as awesome and as beautiful and has the most robust growth that it's ever had.
Okay.
And that's after seeing his tank for 30 years.
Okay.
So it's pretty amazing, the difference.
And now, if somebody wanted to read those articles, where are they at?
Reef builders. Wait, why is this still on? It should not be on. Reef builders and primarily reef builders.
Okay. Reef builders.
And if you look at my Facebook page, you can see pictures of Sanjay's tank over 2 years and see the differences.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can really see the difference in time.
And now, does Sanjay agree?
Oh yeah.
Okay, because sometimes you'll say one thing and he'll be like, eh.
He made a couple other little tweaks, but nothing has caused as robust a change in the tank as that.
That's wild.
So I mean, I've also probably been contacted by at least a couple hundred people that are using it. The only people that have had issues, oh that's bad, are the people that still had high nitrates.
Ah.
If your nitrates are under 10, you should see an effect from using it. If your nitrates are over 10, it tends to cause your nitrates to get higher, obviously, which isn't good.
I wondered how you were going to get that out of there without getting on a step stool.
Supersized tweezers. Always good.
And good gription.
Yeah. Super long arms, too,
Right.
don't hurt.
Right.
But you can see how much stuff has grown
Yeah,
in here
look at it.
in 3 months. And it gets soaked in muriatic acid.
Yeah. So to your point, that'll at least save big time on the
Yeah.
amount of time you got to do on it.
Yeah, the amount of hassle.
So here's a question: what's that orange?
This is the power cable for the
for the abyss.
for the abyss.
Okay, so to that point, how much power is that baby going to chew up? Approximately.
At full blast, it's only 100 watts.
There you go. So, again,
Much less than these.
right,
These are work fine, but they're not very efficient.
right. Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, again, full blast 100. Now, this time around, I've noticed a lot more snails. Is that intentionally?
Yeah.
And why is that?
Just to cut down on, I'm trying to make things as simple as I can, keep my hands out of the tank.
Yeah.
If I can have the snails. That's also why if a fish dies, it's typically replaced with a tang or some other herbivore rather than something else that will cause issues.
Yeah. So everybody has a job, so to speak.
Yep.
Got it.
What's nice is with the LEDs, this is the only cooling system I have. Oh,
Styrofoam just hit the...
yeah, that's okay.
Remember the days of the chillers?
Yeah, well, that's how I lost the 1,200 gallon tank. That was at summer when it was as hot as this summer, and the room had its own air conditioner, or the switch flipped off, and my ex-wife did not feel it was necessary to turn it back on, so the chiller didn't turn back on, and the tank got to 94 degrees and killed 90% of the corals.
Was that when it was in its prime too?
Yeah.
Ah,
I've looked at that tank now, and over those years and what I had in it, there's probably $2 million worth of corals in it
yeah,
at today's rates.
sure.
Because a lot of that stuff. Oh, what the heck is this plugged into? This is still working. This Tunze's actually puts out a nice current.
It's on the front.
Will make life much easier. Look how big this magnet is.
Right?
Yeah. I wonder that thing never moved. Another bucket.
That was sure easy.
Yeah.
So dosing wise, you said you're doing ammonia.
I'm doing Reef Moonshiners trace elements, which I've been doing for probably the last year and a half, 2 years.
Okay.
I'm doing Claude's Fauna-Marin ICP testing. I'm also adding some of his trace elements. Whichever trace elements I'm short. They both have really good calculators, so it's easy to keep the trace elements good. More than anything, I'm finding, well, the other thing I had a problem with, my fluoride levels were very low. They were 0.31. The goal was to have it like 1.21. So unfortunately, I brought them up to like 5, which wasn't the smartest thing I ever did. That caused some issues too. Now I'm back down to 1.8, so I'm getting there. What else? Just too much putzing around on my part, which is always the problem.
Right.
But I mean, for the most part, things are starting to take off and grow. I mean, some of the things, there's a purple coral here that's probably the most purple coral I've ever seen. I mean, it matches a purple monster. And I mean, it was nothing 2 weeks ago.
Right.
The same thing with the Paletta pink tip. There was literally nothing pink on it while it was stressing and fighting. And as we all know, the most colorful corals are corals that are growing, because then they have the colorful growth tips and everything else. If your corals aren't growing, you're not going to have colorful corals. I don't care what you do.
Right.
And if a coral isn't growing, it's typically dying slowly.
Right.
So people don't understand that. I've killed many corals quickly, but I've also killed many corals slowly. So you want to not have them dying, and seeing growth tips
Right.
more than I've seen kicking in the past couple of weeks. I know I'm back to...
Look at the growth tips on that milk can. It looks like a bouquet back there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, but what's interesting is people don't look for growth tips and
Right.
appreciate that that's what's telling them how healthy the tank is.
Right.
And they also don't appreciate, doesn't matter if you have the best lights, the best skimmer, the best flow and everything else, it all comes down to water chemistry.
Sure.
If you don't have good water chemistry, it doesn't matter what else you're doing.
Right. Everything
So it
else
really
is-
doesn't. And I stupidly monkey around with that way too much. I fool around with water chemistry. Oh, that's a
Right.
bad move.
Right.
So, because at this point, we all pretty much have this baseline where we can grow stuff, but we all want to do the latest thing, the newest thing, and incrementally make it better.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we incrementally or significantly make it worse. I'm a perfect example of that, and I'll tell you that. So I am not monkeying around. My goal through the end of this year is to make things simpler, one skimmer instead of two,
Right.
simple dosing, regular ICP testing, not adding a whole lot more stuff to the tank, and just letting it go that way.
Right. Right.
And I think by this time next year, this tank will be like Sanjay's tank, where I'll be taking the hammer and
Right.
chisel to take stuff out,
Right.
which will be fine with me because I have pretty much every coral I want, so that's not the issue. So we're pretty much done. We have the one there, and we have, I think, one back there, or I'm going to add one back there. I still have this one in the middle. I'm not leaving that for now because it's off. And now we're going to add the new one, which should be interesting. The one thing that has made it through everything is this giant turbinary in the back that I brought back from Fiji 20 years ago. There's a little tiny piece. Came in probably like a 50-cent size piece, and it's been broken off 50 times. And the green, bright lime green acropore in front of it was also hand collected in Fiji.
It's a shame it kind of blends in.
Yeah, and those are the only two corals that we collected, literally 600-700 heads of coral
No good.
for a 5,000 gallon tank.
Ah.
And unfortunately, the tank ruptured and killed all the corals that were in it. Takes 3 pieces of cardboard to keep the magnets so you can
Your
pull them
fingers
apart.
get caught in there.
Yeah, they get caught, you're losing a finger. So that's the whole goal of this, not to lose a finger putting these in today.
What's wild is I can't believe that freaking transformer thing only puts out 100 watts.
Yeah.
Now, how long has Abyss been around?
At least probably 15, 20 years. They're not a new kid on the block.
So 15, 20 years, which means that at least they've been proven.
Yeah.
And to your point, we know in the public aquariums we see them on those huge tanks,
Yeah.
but they don't have anything on for the smaller ones.
Obviously,
Right.
you know, for a 120 or something, there's a zillion different options. But for a 500 or 1,000,
Right.
they just need something a little smaller. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue something onto the wall to eventually grow out and hide it in both places.
That'll be cool, actually.
Yeah, I'm probably going to put a Paraides or something like that.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing in this tank that I know it's doing well is this green Paraides with the pink infection has been blah for 6 months. It's just been green. Now it's vivid green with bright pink. So the infection's back stronger, but the coral's healthier,
Got
which
it.
doesn't make any sense.
So while you're doing that, let's talk about your lights. Because last time when we filmed this tank, those reef brights weren't on there.
Those aren't reef brights. The
No?
reef brights are off. These are now Orphics and blades,
Oh, yeah?
just to get more light in the front.
Uh-huh.
I mean, obviously I can get enough light in the front, but I wanted more light and more blue light, particularly for the chalices
Sure, right. Maybe
and
pop.
for the pectinias, and they really do pop more
Yeah,
than
yeah.
they used to.
Yeah, yeah.
So in that regard, I'm quite happy with what I'm getting. These are going to be mounted right here when I'm done.
There you go.
They're going to be out of the way, out of the water line. So like I said, my goal for the rest of the year is to make this room clean and simple.
I don't know you're ever going to get it simple.
It's with only 2 pumps instead of 13.
Well, that's a hell of a start.
That's a start.
And now with these Abyss, can they be controlled like wirelessly with a phone or
No.
anything like that?
No, this is
Old school.
old school, reliable. I mean, I've had issues with
technology.
technology.
Bros.
Obviously, I always state that technology is never my friend.
Especially on the fish tanks.
No, and then once I have all the wires cleared up, I'm gonna mount and hide all the power supplies and make sure they're off the water.
Sure.
So there's lots of things I'm doing to make things simpler.
Sure. I just laugh how all the fish are like, we're staying behind the rocks.
Yeah, we know he's doing something crazy.
Right.
We've seen this movie before.
That's what it is. Seen this
We don't know what it is,
Right.
but it'll screw up something.
I'll be real interested just to see how the.
I'll be real interested to see what happens too.
All right. To your point.
Well, we're ready. It's showtime. So we'll see if this blows a fuse or not. I'm hoping it doesn't. Oh, there we go. I just saw some serious flow.
Yeah, hold it. There it is.
There
I
it
see
is.
now, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's not good. Now it's at 65%.
Yeah. Yeah, you see over, look at right in front of you.
Yep. Look at that.
And that's 60.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to have to jump it up much.
I don't think. I think it'll be fine.
Look at all the detritus blowing on the bottom,
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Wow, that's all. Despite having 6 pumps in there, it wasn't, or 13 pumps, it was
Right.
doing nothing compared to this.
Right. I think it's funny how right in here is where the pressure spot is.
Yeah, that's where the 2 meet.
But again, it's not in the center of the tank.
Yeah.
But this one is more powerful than that one,
That-
even though they're
That for now, because they're not
Right,
synced.
Right.
This
right.
one's running at 20%. That's running at 65%.
Okay,
That's
okay,
why.
Okay.
But that's going to do that all the way across and keep everything clean.
That'll be.
Yeah, I'm going to have to glue some things and mount some things
Yeah, look
firmly.
at that.
Yeah, things are blowing around. This is what I'm going to have to do.
Yeah, this is going to be a
It's going to be a work in progress, yeah. Yeah, Rosanna's going to love this. Coral blew down, and then I couldn't even find it. That's pretty impressive.
See, I'd say that was success right there.
Yeah,
Period. To your point. How many heads did you have in there?
13.
So, even with 13, look what 2 did.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll come back in when?
Probably Christmas time.
There you go. So we'll
3
give it-
months.
Yeah, 3 months. We'll come back and we'll see what the verdict truly is.
Yeah. I'm very happy. It takes a lot to impress me with flow, but this pretty much impresses me
Right.
with flow, yeah.
That, and if you notice, look at the anemones aren't getting pelted.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's perfect flow. Okay. See you bye.
Yeah, right across the middle, but it's hitting everywhere.
See you bye.
Bye. See you next time.